Entering our second season of Blood Time, we want to thank not only our phenomenal and remarkable individuals that were our guests, but also the support, the incredible support that we have had throughout the community, not only locally, but nationally. What you can absolutely put to bed as guaranteed the second season of Blood Time are more remarkable individuals, more transformative stories, and more Blood Time moments. Please give a listen to the second season, for we are all blood. Coach Cimoroni here. Love to all. This is Coach Cimoroni for Next Level Continuing Education. Next Level brings unique education to real estate professionals and real estate investors on how to get money effectively and efficiently into real estate investments. Next Level Continuing Education has ditched the traditional continuing education platform. Gone are the days of listening to boring content in a stuffy classroom setting. Come jump on a Zoom call whenever you find it comfortable and learn how to expand your real estate portfolio. Next Level CE brings unique content across Ohio and the Midwest to teach real estate investors how to become their own bank using the infinite banking concept to acquire more properties quickly. Call Ryan M. Miller, the CE specialist, at 330-933-8231 or click on the link in our show notes. That's Ryan M. Miller, CE specialist, 330-933-8231 or our show notes. The link is where you go. Thank you. Hey, this is Coach Cimoroni for Blood Time. Welcome to this interesting year. It's our second season, and we've already had some amazing guests on and terrific philosophies, stories, transformative moments, Blood Time moments. Today, I have a young man I've known since he's been a very young man, a good friend of my nephew, Mark Worthington's, and an incredible, not only wrestler, but great kid, great young man, and a great family. Domenic Abounader. How you doing, Domenic?
Good, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Good to see you in the chair.
Yeah.
All right.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're here. And, you know, it's interesting. We had another one of your buddies on, George DiCamillo, in first season, and he was terrific. You know, terrific quality family. I've known the family forever.
For sure.
And you guys, too. I mean, you've been a business in the Cleveland community for 30 years, 40 years, something like that. Now you're over in Lyndhurst with Abbo's Grill, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, my dad opened up a restaurant there on Mayfield Road, so it's been going 4 years now.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
And your brother Joe runs that with him?
Yep.
That's awesome. And mother Michelle and
yeah, the whole family helps out.
And Dad Sam, right?
Yep.
Yeah, well, give them all my best.
I will.
Awesome. And Domenic, you know, you started as a young man in our great sport with a bunch of youth that came up that were incredible, did a lot of incredible things. And then you ended up going to the Storied St. Ed's program. How did you get there?
So I started at the Mayfield Wrestling Club with, like you mentioned, Mark Worthington and Georgie DiCamillo, and Johnny DeJulius was there.
Oh, my.
Kyle Roddy at the time. So we had quite the room
Sure.
as young kids. And from there, my brother's 6 years older than me.
Okay.
So he ended up going to St. Ed's. So that's kind of how I got involved with St. Ed's as a young kid. And then just being around the room and all the guys a lot and being around my brother, I kind of transitioned over to the West Shore Wrestling Club around fifth grade or sixth grade. And, you know, from there, just kind of fell in love with the school and the coaches and, you know, Coach Heff and Coach Leonard and a bunch of that. You know, we've always had like 10 coaches in the room at St. Ed's at a time. So I kind of just fell in love with all the coaches, and Urbis was always been a mentor to me. And
St. Greg.
Yep.
He's unbelievable. We had him on the show, and he's just incredible guy. And
yeah.
Jeff Leonard's a supporter of our show. First season, JTL Construction and Mike McLaughlin and Jason Effner, all those guys over there.
Yeah, so just,
people.
You know, so many great people being involved in that program. Just it was the right decision for me. So
now were the Seikos involved with that at all?
Yeah, so Gus was at St. Ed's when I was a part of West Shore.
Okay.
And obviously his dad was the coach at West Shore. So
sure.
he was my, first grade school coach when I started to get serious with the sport, around 5th, 6th grade. So, Mr. Seiko was my coach until high school, and it's a great family and
great company,
guy.
Defenso.
Yeah,
we love Defenso.
Keeps us on the mat. So
yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, it's just so many great people involved in the St. Ed's program. It was just a joy to be around, and I was glad I got to be involved in that.
That's cool. So you develop in pretty much a wrestling royalty over there, and then you get to the St. Ed's program and you have a pretty successful freshman year. Tell us a little bit about that, and then your high school career is amazing.
Yeah, so going into freshman year, I wrestled 126 as an 8th grader, and I knew the weight that I was kind of weighing, like 140, 145, just wasn't going to cut it because Anthony Slupo was the 145 pounder who wrestled for Lehigh, and then Nick Salzer was the 160 pounder. So I was kind of in a position where I had to gain a lot of weight to get up to 152.
Right.
And
plus
kind of
the 152 pounders, those are juniors and senior animals coming at you.
Yeah, so my freshman year, that's what I had to do in the off season to try and start. And coming off of football, because I played football 4 years as well.
Sure.
I was a little bit rusty. I actually lost my first wrestle off as a freshman. Wow. And then about a month in, I regained the spot at 152. Okay. Had a pretty good season, and then
you were district champ, weren't you?
Yeah, sectional district champ.
Yeah,
did really well there, and then I had to wrestle eventually the state champ Joaquim Komar in the second round at state. Right. I ended up losing 9-10 or 8-10, something like that.
Wow.
And then Teddy Hammer pinned me in the wrestlebacks, so I got caught on my back.
Yeah.
I had majored him the week before at districts.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens.
I mean, I've seen it happen over and over again. It's just weird.
Right. And then we ended up losing. Right. We had a 14-year streak at St. Ed's of being state champs. We ended up losing to Wadsworth that year. So I kind of took that very personal and, felt that I didn't really help the team at state. So the following year just came back with a fire.
Well, you lost to an incredible program. I mean, John Gramuglia, we had him on. We just had Clay Wenger. What a terrific
all
group of human beings,
let alone wrestlers. Right? Yeah. They were all really good.
Yeah, and so you come back with a vengeance, and you win 3 state titles in a row.
Yep.
It's interesting. I had a few guys on here that have won numerous national titles, state titles, and I want to ask you this question. Who was your toughest competitor of those 3 titles? Who was your toughest guy that was the runner-up?
My junior year, I wrestled Baker.
Okay.
From Twinsburg.
Sure.
And he was pretty tough. I think I beat him 3-0. I got him on the mat, and rode him out a lot that match in the finals. And that was definitely the edge I had over him because on his feet he was really talented. And I got one takedown and rode him out and escaped. So that was definitely my toughest opponent. My sophomore year, I won pretty handily. Yeah. And my senior year as well. So junior year was definitely probably my toughest year. And that was the year they combined the weights. Right. Like they changed the weight classes.
Right.
So Baker was a state champ at the weight above me, and we kind of met in the middle. And state champ versus state champ. And that was probably my toughest state finals match.
That had to be very satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you learn from that match?
That I need to get better on my feet.
Okay.
So, it's always been a little bit of a downfall for me is my attacks. I've always been kind of a defensive wrestler and a counterattack type wrestler. So that's still something that I struggle with and just try to, push to get my attacks going.
Yeah, and that was old school. I mean, when I was growing up, counterattacks, Rick Sanders, that was it, man. You let the guy shoot in on you and just torture him,
Yeah.
So it's not bad that you have that in your back pocket, right? But now you got to get the attacks because that's our sport now. That's just what it's evolved to.
For sure.
So then you evolve into D1. You get some offers, and you get a pretty nice offer from that place up north.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what happened with that, and how did that? You have to have a lot of not only your parents behind you, but you have to have your coaching staff behind you to get those type of offers, even if you have the talent that you have.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that process and the support that you got, that blood time moment, if you will, that really somebody that was behind you to get those kinds of offers.
Yeah, so I would say it starts with Coach Urbis.
Okay.
He's, like you called him, St. Urbis. He definitely preaches, not only being a good wrestler, but being a good student and just being a good man,
Right.
And so that kind of mentality that he bestowed on us at St. Ed's, that kind of personality is definitely what coaches look for at the college level.
Yeah.
You know, they want a good student. They want somebody that's not going to cause a lot of trouble.
They do not want to get that call at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Correct.
Some problem is had that some knucklehead had.
Yeah, so that's definitely where it starts. If you could get it done in the classroom, and then, you know, when you could get it done in your community, and then also on the mat, that's what coaches look for. So I'd say Coach Urbis was a big part of that. And at the same time, he's not going to vouch for you to college D1 programs if you're not the person that, you know, he says you are. So he's not going to go lying to college programs just to try to, you know, bring up your confidence. So that's where it starts. And, you know, the coaches were behind me 100%. And then my senior year, Kozicki actually had left Michigan and come back to Cleveland. So he definitely let me know a lot about Michigan. And, you know, he had no hard feelings with them and let me know what kind of people are there and, you know, how they'll take care of me and things like that. So he definitely helped guide me into making a little bit of Michigan choice, but he didn't force me or anything like that. He let me. He just informed me.
He just gave you the scoop. Man. Correct. It was the right story, right?
So he just informed me on the program a little bit, so that played a little bit of a part. And there's obviously a St. Ed's connection to Michigan with Bertine and Andy
Ryan
Rovat.
Bertine, yeah, terrific. Wasn't he two-time national champ?
Yep. Yeah. Ryan Bertine, Andy Rovat, and Mike Kozicki. So we had a little bit of a pipeline there, and Coach McFarland would come back to Cleveland every summer and do the Michigan
he's a West Side
camp.
kid.
Yep.
North Olmsted, right?
Yeah, so there was definitely a connection there. I had known Coach McFarland for a long time, and at the end of the day, they were definitely the right decision to me. They were matching scholarship money with most of the other schools that were looking at me. Virginia Tech and Virginia were, you know, second and third on my list. So Ohio State had a big recruiting year that year.
Yeah, they did.
had Tomasello and the Jordans, and it was a big year for them. So I don't think they had a lot of money.
They ran out of money
to offer. So
and it wasn't their. I don't think it was their intention to run out of money.
For sure. They got a lot of good recruits. So.
I mean, 12. You came out in 2012. That was like all stars everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it was crazy.
I love Coach Ryan and Coach Jaggers as well, but I met with them a couple times. They came to my house, but at the end of the day, Michigan was just the right fit and the right choice.
Great, yeah. So, and Kozicki, what a terrific guy. I had him in studio earlier this year. He was our second episode of season 2. At the Wrestling Factory, and I've watched him run practices. He's terrific.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
He is just terrific, and he loves the sport, and he really, he really brings what needs to be brought to the sport, both technique-wise, but also philosophy, and he talks about that, and I love that when he comes into the room or when you go into his room. So I'm a big fan of his. So you go to Michigan, right, and you're under McFarland, but you got some great assistant coaches there.
Right.
Who do you bond with there, and what happens at Michigan?
So my freshman year, I planned on redshirting.
Sure.
And our captain at the time, Max Huntley, ended up tearing his pec, and he was a starter at 184. Yeah. So I would say my freshman year, I got really close with Donnie Pritzloff.
Oh, wow.
And
now, he was a Wisconsin guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was he a national or a runner-up?
He was a national champ.
National champ, yeah.
Yeah, he was a Wisconsin guy, came to Michigan to coach, and then after my freshman year, he ended up leaving for Rutgers. But I definitely was pretty close with him my freshman year. So Max went down and got hurt, and I stepped in as the starter at 184. So that was a big decision to make because I was giving up my red shirt to end up wrestling. But losing Donnie was definitely big for me.
Sure.
But I gelled with him pretty good my freshman year.
Did you? Yeah. Now, what did he teach you? Like, was there just moves that he taught you, or was there a philosophy? Because, I love the brilliance that I see at your level is knowing how to manipulate a match, the strategy in a match, how to take your match to the opponent, but also to understand the opponent. Was he good that way, or was he good? How was he good, I guess?
Yeah, Donnie was definitely somebody that helped me with my mentality.
Okay.
He's great technically,
yeah,
but he's definitely somebody that helped mold my mind into keeping a strong, steady pace throughout the match. Like I said, I've always been a little bit defensive, and he definitely helped me, push the pace a little bit with my hand fighting. And I remember like my first week in Michigan, Donnie asked me to come in the morning and drill with him and just all we did was drill for like an hour,
Wow.
and I couldn't breathe. I mean, his pace that he had on me, he gets like these inside ties, and I remember my armpit was like raw
Yes.
from him just pulling on my arm.
Sure.
And, he's just teaching me like just the pace of college wrestling. It's definitely a little bit different.
Yep.
In high school, I feel like I never got tired ever.
Right.
But in
Right.
college, it's like it's a
Forget
different
about it.
game.
Yeah.
It's a different game.
Yeah.
With the riding time and things like that. So just keeping that steady pace and having a solid mindset throughout, an entire match is it's definitely big for college. You see guys that have a lot of success just solely off of a high pace,
Right.
And breaking
Right.
your opponent.
Well,
So,
I mean, Iowa lived on it
Right.
for what,
Exactly.
20, 25 years.
For sure.
And I think that you're seeing a different type of pace with Penn State, more of a fun. I don't know. It's almost like a buoyant.
For sure.
Like
it's
Ed
definitely
Ruth.
different.
When I look at Ed Ruth, it's almost like watching Michael Jordan wrestle. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? He's just amazing. And I think you see a lot of those. I mean, Bo Nickel. The absolute athleticism is
Right.
incredible from those guys, and I think you could attest to that, right?
Yeah.
The other thing too is I love what you just said about Pritzloff, about that rawness, on your underarm,
Mhm.
okay, or on your tricep, because when you look at greats all over in every sport, but let's say one of our combat sports, boxing, the greatest of all time to some people's minds was Rocky Marciano.
Right.
Well, Rocky used to hit you on the biceps. He wouldn't hit you in the jaw or in the stomach.
Right.
He'd hit you in the biceps, so that at the end of like the 5th or 6th round, you drop your arms because you were so
Right.
beat up, and then boom, he'd knock you out. And all the guys would say to that, he was just relentless, but the pace too. You know what I
Right.
mean? But there was a absolute method to the pace. And I think that's what you may have learned from Pritzloff, right?
Yeah,
The
for
method
sure.
to the pace.
The first 2 weeks
Right.
of Michigan wrestling, I think they do this a lot of different programs, but the first 2 weeks we do these things called hour grinds,
Yeah.
and it's just an hour straight of live wrestling with your partner,
Right.
and they give you like an optional one break when you
Okay.
want, but the older guys know not to give you that break, and
Right.
that first 2 weeks as a freshman, it's a completely different animal. You come in and going with Max Huntley and Taylor Massa, they absolutely annihilated me, put me on my back maybe 10, 15 times in that hour. So
Wow.
it's definitely getting used to. It just building your mind, and callousing the mind. Because
Having a
after
short
those
memory,
2 weeks,
right?
yeah,
You gotta
after
have a
those
short
2
memory.
weeks, I learned how to fight through some of that adversity, and I ended up not getting put on my back one time. Then I started beating some of these guys,
Yeah.
and that first 2 weeks in those hour grinds, it's definitely the freshmen get a rude awakening. So.
No. Well, again, when you go to that next level, right, and then you go to the next level,
Right.
and you get a rude awakening, and it's also the speed of the game is ridiculously fast, right?
Right.
That moment, like you were saying, you make a mistake in high school, you can correct it. No,
Yeah.
you make a mistake in at that level, at the Division I level or at the international level, and you're done. It's touch
Right.
fault, you're out. So, I want to talk to you a little bit too about the foundation that you just talked about, because you found some adversity that you had to overcome, and you did overcome it
Right.
at Michigan and at the D1 level. And we're going to do that when we come back with after our break. We're going to take a little bit of a break right now. Thanks.
Sure.
We'll be back with Dom Abounader. This is Coach Cimoroni. I want to thank Serve Pro of Beechwood, our newest sponsor, and Jack Coslin, the owner. They serve all of Northeast Ohio, not just Beechwood. They specialize in disaster cleanup that leaves your home or office like new, like it never happened. Flood and water damage, fire, mold, and they say even blood and guts. Not just any Serve Pro. Seek out Serve Pro of Beechwood. That's Serve Pro Beechwood, Shaker Heights, ClevelandHeights.com, 216-464-4498. Operated by a former All-State wrestler from Beechwood, we love Serve Pro of Beechwood.
Defense Soap at defensesoap.com. In the midst of our current health crisis, we at Blood Time want to thank Guy and Gus Seiko and the team at Defense Soap as a beacon of our protection. Body wipes, skin cleansers, bars of soap, shower gels, and disinfectant tablets. All this and more as Defense Soap is on the front line of our protection. Thanks to the Seiko family and their team at Defense Soap. Check them out for all your protection needs during these precarious times. Defense Soap at defensesoap.com.
And we're back. This is Coach Cimoroni with Dom Abounader. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, welcome back after the break. And my producer just talked about a kind of a knucklehead that's, I guess, very famous now. You know, we make knuckleheads famous. The Italians call them cavoons. And you pinned this guy, Logan Paul, right?
Yeah. I was supposed to wrestle him in the sectional finals, I think it was my senior year. And he didn't wrestle. He forfeited the match.
Okay.
And then again at district finals,
Right.
I wrestled him, and he almost stalled out of the match. I think he had like 4 stall calls.
Wow.
And I was winning like 7-0 or 7-1 or something like that. And after the 4th stall call, you get choice, and I picked top and ended up pinning him.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Well, you'd have to be almost a statue to get 4 stall calls, right? I mean, come on. Really?
Yeah, he was just running the whole match, and
Was
he
he
was
like Curly from the Three Stooges?
Yeah. He was talking some trash in the
Yeah.
Plain Dealer the week before and
Oh,
stuff
sure.
too. So I was ready to get after him, and
Well,
Yeah.
way to go.
Yeah.
We like that. We like that the wrestler will make a knucklehead look like a knucklehead.
Right.
Like that.
Exactly.
So, anyhow, getting on a serious note, you face some adversity at Michigan with really a devastating injury, Dom, and that curtailed your goal to be on the podium. Tell us a little bit about that. Not only physically but mentally, what that did to you, and then galvanized your resolve to get back and make that podium opportunity.
Yeah, so I actually had 3 knee surgeries while being at Michigan.
Wow.
Minor ones, they're meniscus stuff, and they always were in the beginning of the season. So I
I'm
always
going to tell you, before you go on to that, I can tell you that any minor thing at your age is minor, but it does not happen at 63.
Yeah.
It continues to get major. So be aware of that.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
so I had a couple knee surgeries that were somewhat minor.
Right.
And just coming back from those it's usually like a 4 to 6 week recovery for your knee,
Right.
and then just getting your timing back, and it's like the actual pounding of the mat on your knee that takes a long time.
Yeah.
So a couple of those were in the beginning of the season and in the off season, but the big one was my shoulder with my labrum.
Yeah.
So in the preseason of my true senior year, I ended up tearing my labrum in practice.
Jeez.
And
How did that happen?
I was in a front headlock, and I was trying to like drag out.
Yeah.
And so my shoulder is real close to my head, and I just kind of heard it pop.
Ugh.
And it was fine that day, and then the next day it was just killing me. So the swelling went down, and it started to feel okay. And a lot of times you could just rehab your labrum, but I did some rehab. It was still kind of bothering me. So I ended up wrestling in the Eastern Michigan Open unattached.
Okay.
So I didn't technically use my eligibility
Right.
yet. And I won that tournament, but I really did not perform to the way that I wanted to or needed to. And I was just constantly like doing things to kind of baby my shoulder.
Right.
I was like, this is my senior year. I don't want to, if it gets worse.
Yes.
And, even just the way I'm wrestling now, I'm not happy with it. So
Right.
I ended up getting the surgery on my labrum.
Right. And I remember you coming over to the Worthingtons with that big, crazy sling out. Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, so I rehabbed it all year. We had a little bit of a down year that year. We had 3 freshman All-Americans.
Okay.
Miles Amin and Stevan Micic,
Sure.
Taylor or Logan Massa.
Okay.
So we had those guys returning, and I got to sit back and watch and learn a little bit from even some of the younger guys. So
Right.
Came back, was healthy, wrestled the full year, had a great season.
Yes.
And then actually the second round of the national tournament, I re-tore the labrum.
I remember that, yeah. That was at Cleveland, right?
Yeah, so in Cleveland, the second round, I re-tore my labrum, and that night was the quarters. It felt fine in the quarters. I wrestled Pete Renda from NC State and beat him in overtime.
Yes.
And it felt fine. Like it was hurting a little bit, but no issue while I was wrestling.
Right.
Then the next morning I woke up and it was just swollen. I felt like I couldn't lift my arm, and I was warming up with Miles Amin, and like,
Yeah.
I was telling him, like, man, like, I know there's nothing I could do, but
Right.
this is killing me.
Ugh.
And I wrestled Bo Nickel in the semis that morning,
Yes.
and definitely wasn't myself. I should have beat him in the regular season.
Yes.
And obviously he's a great wrestler, but I really wasn't happy with the way I performed in the semis. And, I don't like making excuses, but my shoulder was definitely bothering me.
Right.
And, so it kind of hindered me a little bit. And the wrestlebacks, I actually got it caught behind my back and gave up 2 points because I took an injury time.
Right.
And then he gets point for the injury time.
Yes, he does.
Choice of position for the injury
that's
time.
right.
So he went down.
Yeah.
I cut him.
Yeah.
I was losing 3-0. And then he shot in on a shot, and I Winn-Dixied him, where like the head and arm.
Yeah.
And his arm slipped out, so I just had his head scissored.
Okay.
So technically it's illegal.
Yes.
So I started that match like 4-5-0,
Yeah.
and then ended up losing 9-8. So I ended up taking 5th that year, but
hey, you're on the podium.
yeah.
With one shoulder, basically. You know
Right.
what I mean, you never know what could happen. But that's the problem. That's the problem, but that is what it is at the national title.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's part of the sport.
Yeah, I mean, who's healthy, basically, and everybody's banged up to some degree, but not to that level. And it's about, and if you look at the pictures of the guys that start the wrestling, at the national, that first day before the first match, at the end, they look like they were in literally a car accident.
Right.
So it's brutal.
Yeah, just the season is long,
Yeah.
especially in the Big Ten.
Right.
The Big Ten season is super long. You're wrestling 2 matches a weekend, making weight twice a week.
Right.
And, it's completely different in the international level. So international level, you only compete like 6 times a year.
Right.
So in college, you might wrestle 6 times in 2-3 weeks.
And it's brutal.
Yeah, so it's tough making weight all those times in a row, even though I don't really cut that much weight. But making weight and then competing, and it's a lot on your body. And I think that's why there's been a lot of talks of shortening the season a little bit and things like that. So.
I think they should do it in high school too.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, I had a lot of sickness, because you're just working out. You're wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You're wrestling 35, 40 matches, sometimes 50 matches.
Right.
It's brutal. I mean, if you're wrestling, because you're wrestling a lot of fish now, in high school. It's not like the old days where everybody was pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
You're pitting a lot of guys who are getting forfeits, but still, you got to work out, So it's a long season. But, saying that, we now talk a little bit about that Olympic movement, and you are now in the Olympic movement. You are now wrestling for Beirut.
Yeah, Lebanon.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Lebanon, Beirut is the capital.
Mm-hmm.
I think your family's from Beirut.
Yeah, my father is.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me a little bit about how that happened, and what is that like?
So I knew that I had Lebanese citizenship for a long time because my dad is from there. He came over when he was like 12 years old.
Gotcha.
So I automatically qualified for citizenship there. I just had to get my passport.
Okay.
So Andy Rovat was our Cliff Keen Wrestling Club coach at the time, and he was real into wrestling for foreign countries or your father's country or whatever. So Dave Habit
is Rovat Hungarian, I think. Is he?
He's Slovenian.
Slovenian, okay,
maybe?
yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So he got Dave Habit going first. Dave Habit was like the pioneer for that. So Dave wrestles for Slovenia.
Gotcha.
And he started it and then, kind of talked to me about it. And at the time, my grandfather had just passed away. So I was really close with him, and that meant a lot to me, kind of honor him.
Sure.
So I decided to wrestle for Lebanon, got my passport, and then ended up wrestling for them. And my first competition, like right away, was the Asian Games.
You took silver there, right?
I did. It was my first foreign international competition, and I ended up taking silver.
To the Iranian, was it?
Yeah, to Yazdani, who's like
sure,
pound for pound #1 guy in the world, arguably. So
right.
It was a great experience, and it was a great first tournament. And
Sure.
From there on, I kind of gotten not as good results, but it was kind of eye opening from there on. Like, you could beat these guys.
Yeah,
it's proven
you're
there. You could beat all these guys. It's just it's a game of inches at that level. So
Sure.
When
you wrestled pound for pound, arguably the best in the world, what's that like? What's that feel like?
Yeah, he's little different. Yazdani is like most of these Eastern European guys. They're slow and methodical, and they're extremely hard to get into their legs, and they just don't wrestle at a high pace.
Right.
And the Iranian definitely wrestles at an extremely high pace. He's
right?
like a buzzsaw. He doesn't stop. So even when he wrestled David Taylor, he's beating him 6-0.
Yeah.
And then, David kind of picked up his pace and ended up breaking Yazdani.
Sure.
But which you don't see a lot. It's a credit to David.
Well, David's a special talent.
So Yazdani is different, man. He comes at you like a buzzsaw, and it's hard to stop. And you definitely got to get to that second period with him, late in the second period, and then I think he'll start to wear.
Isn't that something that we can, as Americans, right? Well, obviously you're taking that American mentality to Lebanon, but we are pace guys,
right?
You know what I mean?
For sure.
When you saw that happen in the '72 Olympics with Gable, that was definitely a recipe, and we pretty much followed that recipe. But it's also hurt us a little bit too, not understanding the pace and the mentality of the foreign wrestler. So I think the brilliance of Schultz, the sly fox, right? And the Russians go, man, this guy's got us figured out.
Yeah, he definitely wrestled more like a Russian.
Right, he figured us out, and so he took them, but he also kept the American mentality too. So he really was the beauty of the merger of both cultures in one guy, and that's why they said, well, we can't figure Schultz out.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool to see that, and so you're on the international circuit, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. How does this look for you? Is there going to be a 2021 Olympics? What's the buzz?
Yeah, so it's been kind of crazy. I was geared up to go to China in March.
Wow.
For the Asian qualifier.
Okay.
And I was registered and everything ready to go, and then obviously the pandemic happened and shut everything down. So that's the big one for me. I still need to go to the Asian qualifier, and they said locations will remain the same. So I'm probably going to have to go back to China.
Whereabouts in China?
Xi'an.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll have to go there and make the finals of that tournament.
Okay.
And if I make the finals, that qualifies me for the Olympics. So the Olympics are still supposed to happen as planned. I don't know if they're going to reschedule the dates for this Asian qualifier, but I think, again, it's supposed to be around March. So hopefully everything's cleared up. We haven't been back in the Michigan room yet.
Yeah.
We've been using like outsourced rooms, and we still work out every day. We lift at Barwas Methods, which is like a great facility. They train a bunch of the Detroit Lions and Detroit Red Wings players.
Awesome.
So it's really high level training that we're getting right now.
And so who are you drilling with? Who are you working out with?
So Sergey is coaching us through these practices, and I've been drilling with Miles Amin, Alex Derringer, and Logan Massa every day. It's just the RTC guys right now. Okay. So
keeping it, you got to keep it tight,
right?
With COVID,
with COVID. So we're in a different room right now, and we're making things work. It's a little bit of a drive every day, but that's what needs to be done. So can't make excuses. Everybody else is working out just
we just figure it out, right? We got to look for solutions as opposed to excuses, and I think that's where our sport really lies. We're courageous, but we're prudent, but we have to find solutions, and we got to be leaders in that creativity.
Correct. And those cards that people have been doing are amazing. I wrestled on the Penn State Rockfin card against Jamie Espinal, and it seems like they're doing some every week now. So that's really, I think, helping grow the sport amidst this pandemic. So.
Well, didn't Taylor call out Burroughs, and Burroughs said, "Yeah, let's go. It's time to party." Right.
Right. So that's the brilliance of what's going on right now.
Sure.
Even with all this COVID stuff going on. So.
Yeah, I remember watching that Dake Tremizo. It was kind of silly.
Yeah.
I don't know what Tremizo was doing.
Yeah.
He's a talent. That's an alien, right?
Oh
there.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. I mean, I've never seen hips like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah, he's incredible.
He really is. So Dom, you're in the middle of it. You're training for your Olympic dream, and we have an incredible history of Michigan and St. Ed's and all those incredible West Shore guys to start you out. Tell me the ultimate blood time moment for you. Who was that one person that said to your, that resonated with you in not only your brain but your heart and your soul, that I could be special and I could do something maybe above and beyond what I'm doing now?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's my dad for sure. From a young age, he coached me through everything, wrestling, football, whatever it was.
Right.
You know, even if he didn't know exactly what he was talking about, he learned it and then taught me.
Sure.
So he was kind of a student of the sport of wrestling when I was really young, and you know, then he just would teach me. So
well, he was pretty much of a Lebanese hammer himself in 8th grade.
Yeah.
Didn't he beat Mike Golick?
Yeah, he pinned Mike Golick. That's the big claim to
at the
fame.
CYO.
But from like a technical standpoint,
yeah,
you know, he was not really like at the top of the game. You know, mental aspect, he's there with anybody.
Sure.
But he learned everything. He would go to every single St. Ed's wrestling camp, and you know, now he's probably one of the best technical guys I know. So
yeah, just a student of the game, right?
Yeah, he's just a student of the game, and
Right.
then he would just teach me, and you know, not just that, but just a mentality. I remember like at a young age, at his old bar, he would have a bunch of pro athletes come in, and
Right.
I remember he called me and he told me, and I'm like, oh, like, can you get me his autograph or
Sure,
something?
yeah.
And he's just, you know, from a young age teaching me like life lessons. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, you don't want their autograph. Like, you're gonna be better than that person.
Yes.
You're gonna be a bigger name than that person. Like,
Wow.
don't hold that person on a pedestal.
Right.
You know, believe in yourself that you're gonna be
Right.
above him. You don't need his autograph.
That's
So
awesome.
that's just kind of things that he would teach me at a young age, and
Yeah.
you know, he definitely is the one person that throughout my whole life, he's just, you know, been there and taught me everything that I know.
So we love Sam. But we also love Michelle, right?
Yeah, of
So how
course.
was, what was Michelle like for you as a son being raised by an Italian mother?
Yeah, I mean, she's my biggest cheerleader. So
yeah.
every single match, she would be there taping the match so that me and my dad can go over it later that night.
Yeah.
You know, and the camera would be like veering off into the crowd, and you could hear her jumping around and screaming, and
yeah.
you know, she was definitely loud at every single match, and I could always hear her in the crowd, and
Sure.
she's definitely my biggest fan.
Yeah, well, that's great. You got to have great parents, right?
Oh,
You know,
for sure.
It's so important, not only for you, but for the whole country at large.
Yeah,
I mean,
for
we
sure.
we need better and greater parents together, you know, doing our thing. So, you know, saying that, we are in turbulent times right now, and you know, I'd like you to leave the audience with a word or two of encouragement, courage, creativity, whatever you think is in your heart.
Yeah, I would just say, you know, try to enjoy these things, you know, and enjoy the time that you have. I know for a little bit, I started taking wrestling a little bit too serious, to where I was working so hard, and it got so serious to me that I needed to win, that when I didn't, it would crush me.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it made me lose a little bit of the joy of the sport.
Sure.
Because sport is very grueling, and it could really tear you down if you let it.
Yes.
And so you just enjoy it, you know. And I'm going into practice every day now, trying to enjoy every little thing, and you know, enjoy the moment while I still have time of competing and wrestling, and
Sure.
you know, just trying to have fun with it. Because like I said, for a little bit, you know, you work so hard. You know,
Yes.
you work so hard every day, and if you don't reach that goal, and it holds you back because you don't want to lose.
Right.
You know, it stops you from pulling that trigger. It stops you from competing at your best, because
Right.
you're scared to lose is what it is.
Yes.
So just enjoy it and have fun with it, and, you know, enjoy it while you can.
Well, that's brilliant, you know. And Coach Urbis quoted Coach Ferguson saying, "Use the sport, don't let the sport use you."
Right.
You know, that was one of his biggest things. And I told Sammy Gross, who was in here the other day, to drink it in. You know, drink in every moment, good, bad, or indifferent, even the pain. Drink it in, you know, because you'll never really get those moments back. And the fortunate level that you've been able to achieve, very rare air. So I think those are great words, Dom. And from Blood Time, the Blood Time staff, we wish you the best. Go Lebanon.
Yeah.
Unless you're wrestling an American, oh well.
Yeah.
But go Lebanon, go Dama Abounader and the Abounader family, and thank you for coming in.
Yep, appreciate you having me.
My pleasure. This is Coach Cimoroni for Blood Time. We are all blood. Men, are you looking for that great suit or sports outfit made out of the finest fabrics and made to measure tailoring? J&A Custom Clothing, Tailoring, and Alteration will come to your home or office and give you that fashion statement that you will be known for. Call J&A Custom Clothing and the owner, Joseph Alberstadt, at 216-513-6165. That's J&A Custom Clothing. 216-513-6165. I
want to share with you my thought of the day. Agendas are a thing of the past. It's time for authentic humanity.
Yeah, this is Matt Lindland. You've just heard another episode of the Blood Time Podcast.